program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
I'm Carlos.
And Chip is running late, so we're going to have to wait to see whereabouts he may be. But it's going to be very interesting. For those of you who have not heard, the People's Debate on October 28th, which is a Wednesday, will be aired by WJAR TV Channel 10, FRC Media, and quite possibly FRG TV, which will be on 18 and 95. So we're going big time, Carlos. What do you think?
Yes, one thing that I think we have to mention too, it's about the tickets.
Yes,
for
the
this
tickets.
debate.
And currently the candidates have 120 tickets apiece for their campaign supporters. And we will be making tickets available at the Fall River Public Library. We'll be making them available at senior centers. Our neighborhood leaders will have some of those tickets as well. So Carlos, who's right there on camera right now, although I should black him out. No, I'm only kidding. Will have some as well. And we're going to make them available throughout the city. And we'll be posting that on Spindle City Straight Talk and on our South Coast Media page.
They are free. But
yes, they are free, but because of the number of people expected for this debate, we had to be sure that only people who had tickets would actually come on. So, and my co-host, Chip Camara, has made the appearance. He seemed to have gotten through BCC security. I don't know if they did a cavity search or not, but...
Telling you, it's the traffic.
Well, yeah, the traffic is crazy. Well, but before we get into our big announcement, which we promised everyone today, I want to get into the clown meeting last night.
We may never get to the big announcement.
Oh yeah, no, we're going to do this brief. The biggest joke I think that went on was fighting to bond 6 fire engines all at once. Now the problem with doing that is this. When you bond for 6 fire engines all at once, they're all going to age out at the exact same time, which means you're going to have a huge bond that's necessary again in 10 years or so. And that's just poor management, and it's poor, fleet management. I mean, let's be real. It doesn't work that way. Nobody went to an expert when they decided to do this, and it was Councilor Jaisla Correa who proposed doing that because of a savings of $50,000 per fire engine. And that's, the thought and the idea behind it was great, but, the reality of the matter is, several years ago, Chief Ford came forward with a plan to buy equipment necessary on a rotating schedule, which is how you're supposed to do it. And the city, in its ultimate wisdom, the entire 9 of the Fall River City Council and the previous administration said, we don't need to do that. I got better places to spend the money. Well, so, you need to look at that. So, Chip, what do you think about bonding for 6 fire engines right away?
Look, even when former Fire Chief Ford was still either a firefighter or a lieutenant, we went through the same thing. And you know the old saying, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. But this, again, is the city's total disregard for the taxpayer. They spend every single dime they have, and then they worry about priority items later. Now, before Chief Ford proposed that was proposed when the last time we replaced the fleet, when I was a president, and I had to go complain about the age of the fleet, and they first attempted to refurbish the trucks, which is only a stopgap. And then we told them, and by the way, they agreed, because they always agree, and then they don't do it. Or if they do put the money away, they ultimately steal it and use it for something else. They divert it to something else. Again, this is what government does. This is why I tell you, people, vote. Let's make a change. We can't continue to run the government. All I know how to do is spend money, and there's no consequences for it. You see, if you or I had a major project we would try to cushion the blow by putting some money away and realizing that that's coming. You know, your roof is going to be, you're going to need a roof in 5 years. You begin to look at that, factor that in. But no, the city just does this over and over again. So, and I understand Councilor Carrera and some of these people, but it's election time. Everybody wants to do, oh, let's bond and the hell with it. Well, more bills for the people of Fall River, the beleaguered taxpayers, which shouldn't have happened. Had they implemented a system where they put away a couple of $100,000 out of the free cash every year for police and fire, and bought a truck or a couple of cars every 2 or 3 years, the fleet would then have, you could phase out the oldest trucks, put in new trucks, new police cars, and then you would have a fleet with brand new stuff, fairly new stuff, moderately new stuff, and stuff that's ready to be phased out. And you also wouldn't need to bond. But guess what? What do they care? They're not going to pay to bond. The taxpayers are going to pay to bond. And this is the whole problem. This is absolute crap. And, you know, Councilor Correa, as you said, he may have been well-intentioned, but when you should go to the people and listen to the people who know what they're talking about. Go to the fire department. You know, the former chief, Ford, said you have to replace these things. And as you said, you buy 6 trucks now. Those 6 trucks in 5 years, they'll say, oh, we don't need any new fire trucks. They're all only 5 years old. And then they'll say, oh, they're only 7 years old. And then guess what? Somewhere down the line, those 6 trucks will all be the same age and they'll be gone. Why not have well, I mean, it's almost an oxymoron when we talk about government. But why don't we have a prudent and workable system where we replace these things a little at a time, and this way the fleet has, you know, you only got 1 or 2 that are on the verge of being obsolete. And before I leave this subject, because I really, this bothers me to no end. They talked about being 2 standards behind. Well, guess what? There was a standard that I went and did a huge presentation on many years ago, and it's the standard that they all ignore, and that is the 1710 Manning standard. The reality is that a 3-man fire crew is virtually useless. It's about 40% as effective. Well, it's a standard, so it's not a mandate. It should be a mandate. But the 17th standard says the minimum fire crew should be 4 men for efficiency. And in high hazard areas, 5. And we have many high hazard areas in this city. So the fact is we are undermanned across the board. If there's one standard, the hell with buying fire trucks, because fire trucks don't put out fires. Firefighters put out fires. And the reality is you really need a 4-man crew to operate. And when you got a 3-man crew, it means you got to take every 3rd truck and split it to do the jobs necessary at the fire. So if we buy 6 trucks, we're going to have 2 taxis. You're going to have 4 trucks bringing the trucks, and they're going to utilize those trucks at the scene. And the other 2 trucks are going to be taxi cab service to bring manpower to the scene because we're undermanned. There's your dose of reality for today, because it's all BS. If there's one thing we should be doing, is finding money to make sure and reorganizing the department to commit as many men as possible to increase the crew size to 4 men on a truck. And with that, we can move on.
Well, Chip, you know, I got a headache from that reality check because it seems like I've heard that reality check several times.
That's why you have an infection.
Yeah, that's why you have it, yeah. But, you know, we're preaching to the choir because, again, look, it's election time.
Yeah.
And we all know that election time, you can get anything through. You know, if you wanted to buy pink elephants and they thought that was going to get them votes, they'd bond for pink elephants.
Oh, we know that.
I have to say this on the trucks, I don't have definitely the experience on the fire department that you have, Chip, but I have to say this. We definitely need trucks. And What Councilor Correa did, he had a vision, and his vision was, let's get new trucks now, and let's get into a plan that every 2 years, every 3 years, we will be able to budget a new truck or couple new trucks. So this issue will never repeat.
You know, but I think the important thing was last night, and I think a lot of people missed that, but you know, Chip and I were talking about it, is the fact that Joe Camara turned around and for once, you know, that I've seen, actually was logical. He's like, right now we've got one truck in front of us. We'll worry about the others later. Right now we got one in front of us. Let's deal with that and deal with the other thing afterwards, which made perfect sense. And you know that the world is coming to an end, and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are coming down 195 when Joe Camara and Leo Pelletier make sense.
The voice of reason on the council. You're right.
But I just don't want to take away the vision from.
No. Look, I'm
Correa.
not faulting Councilor Correa, and it's a great idea, but we don't have the money right now, and I understand his vision, but we got to buy that one truck now, and let's put in place. But see, this is where my firefighting is coming in. You see, I'm looking at the reality of what we do. Okay, firefighters go into burning buildings to rescue people and save property, and the truck is the last thing. If we can get pumps, and our pumps, some of them, they're working. Granted, but even with a brand new truck, it can break down on a fire scene. The 2 most important things you need at a fire is adequate personnel to rescue people and to fight the fire. And the second thing is breathing apparatus. Everybody forgot the breathing apparatus is crap. So what good is it to bring firefighters to the scene and send them into a burning building with self-contained breathing apparatus that could fail and kill them? That's absurd. This is what, and this is something that really is near and dear to my heart, because when I first got on a job, my second year on the job, Frank Candeas, the station that on Warren Street, corner Warren and Plymouth Avenue, is named after. Frank Candeas died at 555 Middle Street. I'm going to tell this to everybody quickly, because I'm going to show you when you think that they really care about public safety. Frank Candeas died attempting to rescue an occupant at 555 Middle Street. And at that time, we had 15-minute air tanks, not 30, 15, with no warning bells to tell you when you ran out of air. And for those of you who have never had an SCBA on, without a warning bell, when you run out of air, it's just, you're done. No air. Finished. Gone. And now if you're in the middle of a building, you have to get through that environment without self-contained breathing apparatus, which Frank Candeas could not. It was too hot, too smoky, and he died. And he died because the city of Fall River was too goddamn cheap to buy bells. And then 2 months later, somebody else died on the North Shore without bells. And the only reason that we got bells on that apparatus was because the state mandated it. Not because the city coughed up the money. So forgive me if I don't believe a word these politicians say about their commitment to public safety. Because if they were committed to public safety, they'd do their research and they'd realize that the most important issue down there, both of them were not addressed. The level of manpower and breathing apparatus, which firefighters' lives depend on. So that's just, that's the reality. Look, trucks are trucks. We've had old trucks for years, and there's always a spare truck there. But the fact is, look, no, I'm not advocating old apparatus. We should have the best public safety equipment, but we don't. And why don't we? Because the only time we seem to worry about the fleet's age or anything else is when it's an election. Now, I'm going to remind everybody that some of these city councilors that were waving flags and singing firefighter and police hymns were on there 15 or 20 years ago when these plans to replace this apparatus on a regular basis were proposed, and they've ignored them. So with that, that's it, because I had to go to, that was the first firefighter funeral I ever went to. And I'll never forget it.
Well, just quickly, and we don't have time for a lot of commentary on it. Pat Casey and Will Flanagan were in court yesterday in regards to stealing a Volkswagen Beetle. And now she's under investigation by the state of Rhode Island and the Massachusetts State Police for fraudulating documents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I got to see how good old Pat Casey comes clean on that one. But, I'm going to read a letter here, Chip, which was provided by anonymous tipsters. And remember, people, we keep your ID secret because guess what? We don't want to know who you are. I'm going to read this now. As you know, we have been working diligently to support Superintendent Meg Mayo Brown and the move to move the Fall River Public School System forward. Meg has done a terrific job. I hope you agree. Hopefully, sometime in the month of November, she will have received her new contract. It is very possible that there could be a change of members of the Fall River School Committee. I think it is critical that we re-elect, in addition to my daughter, Melissa Panchley, of course, so now we know where the letter comes from, Paul Hart, Bob Maynard, and Mark Costa. Collectively, those 4 people form a majority who provide great support and encouragement for Meg's leadership. I am respectfully asking you to write checks payable to the committee to elect Paul Hart, the committee to elect Mark Costa, the committee to re-elect Robert Maynard. Checks for $50 or $100 would be very helpful to their campaign. Our business and professional community had a lot to do with the support Meg now receives from both the school committee and the city council. I believe it is critical that we re-elect the members I have mentioned above so that Meg continues to have the support necessary to make the difficult decisions and create a wonderful atmosphere for our Fall River students. Please send checks to my office, and I will make those candidates know of your generosity and support for high-quality education. Sincerely, Bob. Bob Karam, Karam Financial Group, 456 Rock Street, Fall River, Mass. 02720. Here it is. We have it. It's his email. And it even says at the bottom of the email, confidentiality note. The information contained in this email is being transmitted for the use only of the individuals to whom it is addressed. If the reader of this message is not the intended recipient, you are hereby advised that any dissemination, distribution, or copying of this message is strictly prohibited. If you receive this message in error, please immediately delete it. That confidentiality notice has no legal standing, but hey, it is what it is. But you know what?
Oh boy.
This is very interesting because this is showing how one man in Fall River thinks he can dictate to the people of Fall River what will happen. And you know what? Mr. Karam has served as a trustee for the UMass Dartmouth system. He has served as a trustee for the UMass medical healthcare system, which makes him a de facto state employee. State employees are restricted by law from soliciting campaign contributions or receiving campaign funds. So again, we may have this issue. I don't know if he currently serves. According to the records that I've been able to find so far, he may still serve as a director or trustee. But my question is, and maybe Mr. Karam can answer it, why do you want the checks to go to your office? Is this a power play? I don't know.
Is it, and the more salient question, I think, is this legal? Because fundamentally, you know, it seems as though it's a de facto PAC fund.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure about the legality of doing this, and well, maybe I read things too literally, but it says, you know, I will make them, I will actually quote it. Please send these checks to my office. I will make sure those candidates know of your generosity and support for high-quality education. Well, in the second paragraph, when he said to make the checks out to the candidates, if it's your check, obviously they will know who it came from.
Yes.
You don't have to bring it to their attention.
Right.
So, but I mean, you know, the fact is, listen, when it comes to, you know, firefighting and retirement and stuff, and, you know, I've got some background knowledge in healthcare, but I think we're going to let this go to the the Office of Campaign Finance and a few other agencies, I'm sure there will be complaints filed. And the thing about this is, I'm not sure how some of these other candidates for school committee feel about this. This seems like a double power play. It's like, it's like, you know, you can support any candidate you want, but it seems as though the sole reason for support of these candidates is to ensure that the superintendent of schools remains the superintendent of schools.
Right. And, you know,
and obviously he has a right to feel that she should remain. But, you know, I'm not sure if this whole, you know, as I said, acting as a PAC fund, I know they're very, very particular about, you know, PAC checks and how, you know, and how things are, and obviously since I've really never run a political, I mean, I've never run for political office, so I didn't have to deal, but you have. I mean, you know, but I know indirectly from working with people who have run that this is one area that, like, I always stay away from the money because it's way too, there's way too many pitfalls.
Yeah, and you know, Chip, the thing that's really the kicker is that, you know, you would think that Mr. Karam, as well as these candidates, all right, and let's name them again. It's Melissa Panchley, which of course we knew, okay, Paul Hart, Bob Maynard, and Mark Costa. All right? So he wants these 4 people put in office because they do his bidding. Okay? They do his bidding. And that's not a good thing. But the question then becomes, number one, is he a PAC? Now, if you remember, earlier in the election cycle, City Councilor Leo Pelletier got fined because he had a city employee handling his campaign funds. Now, does this make each of those candidates liable for action if Mr. Karam is determined to be a de facto state employee because of his positions at UMass? Okay? And that's where the ethics complaint comes in. Oh, did we talk about another complaint? So you've got OCPF, which, by the way, I have been on the phone with OCPF already in regards to this, and we go back and forth. I have a very good relationship with the members of OCPF.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
Yep. And I haven't filed the complaint with a formal complaint with OCPF. I have not filed a formal complaint with the Ethics Commission. By virtue of my position within state government, I am governed by the same rules of Mass General Law 55 that many other people are, including the ethics laws, which everyone on this show, are also governed by, are the ethics laws of the state and the governing of political campaigns and whatnot. So this is going to be an interesting situation because right here at FRC Media, we will be having a school committee forum where the candidates and the incumbents are going to come together and meet and discuss issues. Now, this might, I'm not saying it will, we don't know. I have no idea what they're going to discuss, but this might become an issue to be discussed. And I'm wondering how soon it's going to take for my phone to ring off the hook from one of the candidates saying, why did you do that to me? Or, no, that's wrong, because they always go into defense mode. But Chip, I mean, this is what I keep telling people, and you say it yourself too. Don't you believe for a moment that your secrets of your backdoor deals and backbiting are going to stay secret for long. Because they will get us the emails, they will get us the documents, they will get us the information to make sure that you, the voter, you, the citizen of Fall River, know that this is what people are doing in the background and this is not acceptable. Oh, and by the way, we do know for a fact that Bristol Broadcasting, which is WSAR, and SG something or whatever, Broadcasting, which is WHTB, have had numerous complaints by current incumbents, not incumbents, city council candidates and candidates for office because of what they feel is unfair by their station manager by not giving them equal time, which is required of the FCC regulations. So they're all filing those complaints. So I'm wondering if this will get included in one of those complaints. Because remember, he is a broadcaster.
Well, There's another really, I think, important moral to this story, and I think that all the viewers and all the people who now will be informed about this story through various other sources have to get from this. You know, you have to garner something from this thing. The only way for the people to have good government is to vote, because this proves again that there are, you know, big money forces that they form coalitions. They may not be able to outvote us at the polls, but they can outspend us and control many elections if we allow them to. But remember that. They cannot buy an election if we all show up. And that's the important thing. We see this on every level. If you remember the Swift Boat campaign against Kerry, a bunch of rich people got together and beat them up for only spending 3 months in Vietnam or something, when the two other candidates never even showed up there. So, but it shows money, you know, media power. They can control the government if we allow them to. You know, we've seen it. We saw it there. We've seen the Koch brothers, and you know, what do they spend? They spend billions every year in manipulating the elections throughout the. And we can go back 200 years to the passage I always read out of the Untold Story of Labor about the elite class saying that it doesn't matter what party they're in, they control the government with their money. So, you know, the moral to this story is, whether this is found to be legal, almost legal, semi-legal, or illegal, just remember, they stick together to push their agenda. If you want your agenda to be the agenda of the people who are supposed to represent you, you have to put the right people in office. That's the bottom line.
I couldn't agree more. Carlos, you've been silent on this issue.
And I'm surprised not to see here. I mean, I'm not surprised not to see here the name of Mr. Martins, because Mr. Martins on that board, I think it's not one meeting that you don't have questions about anything that's being proposed, being asked, being demanded. You know, he does his homework.
Well,
he really speaks in behalf of our kids.
Right. But in all fairness, I did reach out to several people on the school committee and to several people that are running for office. I did not reveal what was contained in this email, but I did tell them that if they wanted to show up for the broadcast of this show live, we would allow them to come on to make a brief commentary on what their opinions were. All of them declined to appear.
You're always so nice.
I don't believe in blindsiding anyone. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to make multiple phone calls to get a hold of you. I will call you once.
Yeah.
If you don't answer the phone, too bad. So
yeah, well, I'm sure they're not going to be too happy, but it just goes to show that there's always forces that are going to try to get people in that are going to be, you know,
the thing is
their agenda.
Right.
I mean, look, it's pretty obvious that Bob Karam wants Meg Mayo Brown in office.
Meanwhile, the people of Fall River don't.
And so, you know, what's the moral to the story? As I said, the moral to the story is, if you don't show up and vote the right people in, the wrong people are going to have more influence with the people in power than we do.
Well, and with that, there's our tone that we're all done for the day. And hey, we'll see you on Friday. And I'm expecting a lot of backlash from this chip, so hopefully we're ready to answer it.
Yeah.
Everyone have a great week, okay? We'll see you Friday.
Stay angry.
And don't miss the debates.
That's right, the debates tonight, right here, Channel 95.
4:30.